Have you ever noticed how some of the most creative minds carry a heavy burden? Here's a fascinating thought. Van Gogh, who painted over 2,000 masterpieces in just a decade, sold only one during his lifetime. Or Beethoven, who composed his most iconic works while losing his hearing. Creativity is celebrated as a gift, yet for many it feels like a double-edged sword. Why does this happen? And how can we turn that burden into something empowering? Today on Stoic Trench, we'll uncover why creative people might seem cursed and how Stoic wisdom can help transform that curse into a profound strength. First, let's talk about what people mean when they say creativity is a curse. Creative individuals often feel like they're walking through life with their senses turned up to maximum volume. They notice details others overlook: the way sunlight dances on a window pane, the subtle shift in someone's tone of voice, or the unspoken tension in a room. This heightened sensitivity is their superpower, the very thing that fuels their art. It allows them to capture beauty, evoke emotion, and make connections that others miss. But here's the catch: that same sensitivity also leaves them vulnerable to the weight of the world. They don't just see beauty, they also feel the sting of its absence. They sense the chaos in the mundane, the sorrow behind a smile, and the impermanence of all things. This can lead to inner turmoil, a kind of emotional turbulence that feels inescapable. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor and one of the most prominent Stoics, offers us a way to navigate this storm. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. For creatives, this insight is like a lifeline. Think about it: the world will always present its challenges, rejection, self-doubt, or even the fear that your work will never measure up. But Marcus reminds us that our power lies in how we respond to these challenges, not in the challenges themselves. The turmoil creatives feel isn't an external force, it's a product of how they interpret the world. If they can master their inner dialogue, they can transform what feels like a curse into a source of profound strength. Creativity is a double-edged sword. It thrives on imagination, the ability to see beyond what exists and bring something entirely new into being. But that same imagination can turn against you, becoming your harshest tormentor. Picture this: when you're constantly envisioning new worlds, new ideas, or new possibilities, it's easy to feel out of sync with the one world you actually live in. This disconnection can breed all kinds of inner struggles. You may find yourself replaying past failures in your mind like a broken record, magnifying every mistake until it feels insurmountable. Or maybe you compare your work to others, convincing yourself that you'll never measure up, no matter how much you achieve. There's also the paralyzing fear that your creations, the things you pour your soul into, might not be good enough. It's here that the wisdom of Epictetus, another great Stoic, cuts through the noise like a beacon in the fog. He reminds us we suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgment about them. Think about that. It's not the rejection of a project, the criticism of a peer, or even the blank page staring back at you that causes the real pain. It's the stories you tell yourself about those events, the way your inner critic takes the wheel and drives you into despair. For creative people, this harsh self-criticism often becomes their greatest source of suffering. And yet, if we follow Epictetus's wisdom, we see a way out. The key lies in reframing our judgments, in stepping back from our inner narrative and recognizing that these thoughts aren't facts, they're interpretations. When you learn to question the stories you tell yourself, you start to reclaim your power. The so-called curse of creativity isn't a modern phenomenon, it's as old as humanity itself. Think about the artists, writers, and thinkers of history. So many of them wrestled with the same inner turmoil that creative individuals face today. Why? Because this struggle isn't just about creativity, it's about being human. The Stoics understood this deeply. They didn't promise a life free from hardship or suffering. Instead, they embraced the idea that struggle is woven into the fabric of existence. It's part of what shapes us, challenges us, and ultimately defines our growth. For creatives, who often experience these struggles more intensely, the Stoics offer timeless tools to navigate them. Let's explore 3 Stoic principles that can help lighten the unique burden that comes with a creative mind. First, embrace the principle of amor fati, love of fate. Imagine viewing every obstacle, every frustration, and every ounce of self-doubt as fuel for your creativity. That's the essence of amor fati, the Stoic principle of loving your fate. It's not just about accepting what happens to you, it's about embracing it fully, as if it were meant to be. Creativity often feels like a double-edged sword. The same mind that dreams up vibrant, imaginative worlds can also conjure endless doubts and fears. But what if those struggles weren't something to resist? What if they were, in fact, the raw material for your art? Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, reminds us difficulties strengthen the mind. As labor does the body, the challenges you face aren't distractions from your creative path, they are the path. Think of them as weights in a gym, pushing you to grow stronger, more resilient, and more insightful. When you feel overwhelmed by the so-called curse of creativity, pause and ask yourself, how can I transform this moment into something meaningful? Maybe it's pouring your frustrations into a painting, capturing your doubts in a poem, or channeling your fears into a story. By loving your fate, even the messy, chaotic parts of it, you reclaim your creative power. The act of creating becomes not just a response to life's difficulties, but a celebration of them. After all, the most powerful art often comes from the most profound struggles. Embrace yours as part of your unique journey. Amor fati. Second, the practice of presence. Creativity is a tug-of-war with time. One moment your mind is consumed by memories of past failures or missed opportunities. The next, it's racing ahead, worrying about whether your work will ever be good enough or appreciated. This constant mental flitting can drain the joy from creating. Here's where the Stoic wisdom of Marcus Aurelius comes in. He writes, "Confine yourself to the present, simple, yet profound. Creativity flourishes not in the abstractions of what was or what might be, but in the immediacy of what is." Think about it when you're truly present, whether it's in the sweep of a brushstroke, the rhythm of a sentence, or the resonance of a note. Time seems to dissolve. The process itself becomes the reward. In that moment, there's no room for fear of failure or craving for praise. There's only the act of creation. Presence also helps quiet the inner critic that so often plagues creatives. When you focus entirely on what you're doing right now, you're no longer giving energy to doubts about the past or anxieties about the future. You're simply doing. So the next time your mind wanders to the mistakes you've made or the recognition you're chasing, gently guide it back. Focus on the single note, the single word, the single line in front of you. Let go of the outcome and surrender fully to the process. Creativity is at its purest in the present moment. Marcus Aurelius was right. The present isn't just where life happens. It's where art happens. Finally, the virtue of temperance, finding balance. Creativity, for all its brilliance, often comes with a pendulum swing from feverish obsession to debilitating burnout. One day you're pulling an all-nighter, consumed by inspiration, and the next you're staring blankly at a canvas, unable to summon the energy to start. This cycle isn't sustainable, and it's certainly not fulfilling. The Stoics understood the importance of balance. Temperance, or moderation, was one of their cardinal virtues, emphasizing the need to navigate life's highs and lows with steadiness. Seneca reminds us we must indulge the mind and from time to time allow it the leisure which is its food and strength. For creatives, this means recognizing that your passion doesn't have to come at the expense of your well-being. Build routines that nurture your art without devouring your life. Schedule time for rest just as intentionally as you schedule time to create. Pause to enjoy the process instead of constantly racing toward perfection. Temperance also means stepping back from extremes of self-perception. If a project goes well, don't let it inflate your ego. If it fails, don't let it crush your spirit. Both success and failure are fleeting. What matters is staying grounded, showing up consistently, and finding joy in the act of creating. Remember, even the most brilliant mind needs space to breathe, recharge, and reflect. Balance isn't a limitation, it's a foundation. When you honor it, you'll find your creativity becomes not just a gift to the world, but also a source of enduring fulfillment for yourself. So why are creative people cursed? Perhaps it's because they feel so deeply, think so broadly, and dream so vividly. But with Stoic wisdom, that curse can transform into a profound blessing. Creativity is a paradox, a burden, and a gift intertwined. It gives us the ability to see beauty where others see ordinary, to create worlds where none existed, and to give life to emotions in ways that touch the souls of others. But it also comes with challenges, self-doubt, overthinking, and a sensitivity that can feel overwhelming. Seneca's wisdom: we are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more in imagination than in reality, holds a mirror to the creative mind. How often do we invent worst-case scenarios about our art? Will it fail? Will anyone care? We let these fears dictate our lives, but the truth is, their shadows fleeting and unreal. This is where the Stoic perspective becomes transformative. Rather than fearing our creativity, we can learn to embrace it. Your sensitivity, that ability to feel deeply and see vividly, is not your enemy. It's your greatest strength. But like any strength, it must be tempered with discipline and perspective. When you refuse to let your imagination enslave you, when you channel that energy into meaningful work instead of paralyzing fear, you take control of your creative power. Your art becomes a testament not just to your talent, but to your resilience. And in doing so, you don't just move others with your creations, you grow stronger within yourself. Carry your creativity wisely. It's not just about what you make, but about who you become in the process. If this resonates with you, let me know in the comments. How do you navigate the highs and lows of your creativity? And remember, the Stoics believe that every challenge is an opportunity to grow. Until next time, stay grounded, stay creative, and stay strong.